Ever wondered why DC heroes are so insanely powerful? It's because beneath those shining armor plates and epic capes, they carry souls that have been shattered 1,000 times over. They save the world because they literally have nothing left to lose. What's up, guys? Welcome back to an incredibly dark video here on Comic Station. Look, we all love the superpowers, the cool gadgets, and the epic victories of these superheroes. But today, we're not here to talk about their heroic triumphs. We're diving straight into the absolute darkest, most tragic, and agonizing corners of the DC universe. DC writers seem to have this unwritten rule. The more they love a character, the more twisted their fate and the heavier their guilt becomes. Today, we're breaking down the top 10 most tragic and dramatic characters in DC history. We're talking about characters who went completely insane from pure isolation, some who live out a waking nightmare every single day, and others who never even had a choice in their grim destiny. I've brought you facts and backstories about these 10 characters that I promise some of you have never even heard of, and it's going to completely blow your mind. So right now, before we jump into number 10 and smash open our first tragic story, make sure to absolutely destroy that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below. Who do you think is the most tragic character in DC history? Now, without further ado, let's get right into number 10. Number 10, Mr. Freeze. We're kicking off the list with one of Gotham's most iconic and tragic villains, a guy who never wanted to be a bad guy, but the world basically forced his hand, Dr. Victor Fries, aka Mr. Freeze. Victor was a brilliant scientist and a total romantic, whose entire universe revolved around his wife, Nora. But fate was brutally cruel. Nora contracted a rare, incurable disease. Knowing his time was running out, Victor cryogenically froze Nora's body to stop the clock on her illness, while he scrambled to find a cure. But his greedy corporate boss shut down the project. In the middle of the blowout, a massive explosion of cryogenic chemicals went off. Victor survived, but his biology was totally warped. He could no longer breathe at normal room temperature. To stay alive, he was doomed to spend the rest of his days locked inside a cold mechanical suit. Now, here's the real tragedy. Mr. Freeze was forced into a life of crime and theft just to fund his lab and keep his wife alive. He's looking at a world where everyone else can feel the warmth of love while he's sentenced to absolute icy isolation. He can't even touch his wife's skin because any warmth from his hands could kill her, and his freezing touch would destroy her. Mr. Freeze is a villain whose entire criminal record is just a desperate bid to buy one more second of life for the woman he loves. The torture he goes through is worse than any punishment Gotham could ever dish out. Number 9, Cyborg. Coming in at number 9, we're talking about someone whose greatest enemy is his own body, Victor Stone, aka Cyborg. Most people see Cyborg with the Titans or the Justice League and just think he's this badass robot with cool gadgets. But the truth is, Victor's life is a waking nightmare. Victor was just a young star athlete with huge dreams, but a horrific explosion ripped through his father's lab, leaving Victor's body completely shattered and torn to pieces. His dad, a workaholic scientist who never gave his son the time of day, did something desperate and terrifying to save him. He took whatever was left of Victor's mangled body and fused it with brutal advanced alien tech and heavy machinery. When Victor woke up, what was he staring at?
He wasn't that handsome track and field star anymore. He was a walking patchwork of flesh and cold steel. Looking in the mirror triggered a total mental breakdown. He can't even sleep like a regular human being because the digital systems in his brain are constantly processing data. He's permanently lost his sense of smell, taste, and even the simple feeling of human warmth. The most painful part? He views himself as a modern-day Frankenstein's monster, kept alive against his will. Cyborg saves the world, but every single second, he secretly wishes he had just died in that explosion. Number 8, Martian Manhunter. In the comic book world, everyone knows Superman is the last survivor of Krypton. But when Krypton blew up, Kal-El was just a baby. He doesn't remember any of it. Our number 8 spot, John Johns, aka Martian Manhunter, felt every single second of his family's destruction with every fiber of his being. John watched with his own eyes as his entire race, his friends, his wife, and most heartbreakingly, his little girl, screamed and turned to ash in a horrific fire. Because of his massive telepathic powers, he actually felt the collective agony and suffering of every single Martian as they died, right inside his own brain. John wandered the barren, empty wasteland of Mars, stepping through the ashes of everyone he loved, completely isolated, until he was accidentally teleported to Earth. Today, he's the most powerful telepath on Earth. He can read the minds of all humans, seeing their love and their families, while carrying the heaviest loneliness in the galaxy. Every single night, he wakes up haunted by the screams of his daughter burning alive. Number 7. Swamp Thing. Alec Holland was an incredibly kind botanist working on a biorestorative formula to regrow forests and end world hunger. But one night, a bomb planted by his business rivals tore his lab apart. Completely engulfed in flames and drenched in chemicals, Alex sprinted out and dove into the dark waters of a nearby swamp to put out the fire, but he died right there. Now here's the mind-blowing and utterly tragic twist. Unlike other superheroes, Alec Holland never actually came back to life. Those chemicals and Alec's consciousness caused the plant life in the swamp to think they were Alec Holland. Swamp Thing isn't Alec's resurrected body at all. He's a massive, towering mass of muck, roots, and decaying leaves that just happens to hold Alec Holland's memories and soul. Swamp Thing is deeply in love with Alec's wife, Abigail. Now just imagine that for a second. You have the mind and memories of a man. You're madly in love with a human woman, but when you look down at your hands, all you see are tree roots and worms. He's condemned to live out eternity in a lonely swamp, never able to rejoin human society, mourning a man he used to be, but no longer is. He's the protector of all nature on Earth, yet he's completely stripped of his own humanity. Number 6. Booster Gold. Coming in at number 6 is one of DC's most hidden and painful tragedies. Everyone knows Michael John Carter, aka Booster Gold, as this goofy, money-hungry, fame-obsessed hero who traveled back from the future just to flex his advanced tech in front of the cameras. But that is nothing but a dirty mask, hiding an eternity of agony. Booster Gold once traveled through time to stop the Joker from shooting Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, in the stomach. He traveled back and forth through time thousands of times, tried every possible way, got beaten to a pulp, got scarred, but failed every single time. That's when he realized some tragedies are fixed points in time, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't stop people from suffering. But you know what the loneliest part is?
To save critical timelines without tipping off genius villains, Booster is forced to play the part of a clueless, incompetent, sellout clown to the public and the rest of the Justice League, meaning absolutely no one, not even Batman or Superman, knows that Booster Gold has saved the entire universe from total destruction multiple times. Everyone throws shade at him, mocks him, and calls him a joke who's just looking for a sponsor. Booster Gold is condemned to be history's most powerful, selfless, yet completely forgotten hero, all while watching his best friend Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, get murdered right in front of him, without even being allowed to alter time to save his buddy. He wears the funniest facade in comics, over the most heartbreaking face imaginable. Number 5. Red Hood. At number 5, we're talking about a boy who became a victim of the world's cruelty, and of course, Batman's strict moral code. Jason Todd, aka Red Hood. Jason was Batman's second Robin, an angry, orphan street kid Batman took under his wing to give him a purpose. But Jason's fate took the darkest turn possible. The Joker caught him, beat him to a pulp with a crowbar in an abandoned warehouse, and then blew the whole place up. Batman got there too late, only able to pull his adopted son's lifeless body from the rubble. Up to this point, it's a standard dramatic death, but the real tragedy starts after his death. Years later, Jason is brought back to life by Ra's al Ghul using the Lazarus Pit, but he returns with a shattered soul and a deeply scarred psyche. When Jason makes it back to Gotham, he's hit with a soul-crushing truth. After his death, Batman didn't just let the Joker live. He actually replaced Jason with a brand new Robin, Tim Drake. Jason realizes that to Batman, he was just an expendable soldier who could easily be swapped out. Remember that legendary scene where Jason holds a gun to Joker's head, begs Batman and says, "I'm not talking about killing him because he's a monster. I'm talking about killing him because he took me away from you. Was I really that worthless to you?"
Jason Todd's absolute torture is that he returned from the dead, but he fits in nowhere. To Batman, he's a threat. To villains, he's an enemy. And he's forever trapped in the phantom pain of that Joker crowbar. He's the hero who was never anyone's number one priority. Number 4, Raven. Coming in at number 4, we're talking about a girl whose life, from the very moment she was born, has basically been a life sentence in solitary confinement. Raven from the Teen Titans. Raven's fate isn't just sad, it's catastrophic and downright brutal. She's the daughter of a mortal woman named Angela and one of the most terrifying, vile, and omnipotent demons in the entire DC cosmos, Trigon. What does that actually mean? It means literal, pure demonic evil runs through this girl's veins. The absolute tragedy of Raven's life is that she is never, not even for a single second, allowed to experience a normal human emotion. She can't laugh from the bottom of her heart like other girls, she can't fall in love, and she can't even get angry. Why? Because her powers are directly hardwired to her emotions. If Raven loses her cool for just a split second, her demonic half wakes up and turns planet Earth into ash. Just imagine spending your entire youth and life under a stifling, suffocating blanket of self-control, constantly fighting your own father's voice inside your head, telling you you're a monster, and not even being able to hug your best friends because you're terrified your inner darkness might swallow them whole. Raven has been forced to personally stand against a father who wants to use her body as a literal portal to tear the universe apart.
She's a hero who, to save the world, has to lock herself in an eternal mental prison, waking up every single day terrified that today might be the day she becomes her friend's killer. Number 3, Batman. Everyone knows the story of Thomas and Martha Wayne dying in Crime Alley. A low-life mugger gunned down 8-year-old Bruce's parents right in front of his eyes. But the story gets incredibly dark after that night. Bruce Wayne never actually grew up after that. He basically died at 8 years old next to his parents' bodies. What we see today as Batman is just a walking corpse fueled by trauma, survivor's guilt, and pure rage. Bruce sacrificed his entire life, wealth, youth, and soul, for a path he knows ends in nothing but destruction. Batman's ultimate tragedy is that he suffers from a crippling mental condition, extreme paranoia, and self-imposed isolation. He can't trust a single soul. He lost the love of his life, Selina Kyle, Catwoman, because he's terrified that if he's actually happy, he won't be an effective Batman anymore. He has condemned himself to suffer because he feels like if he smiles even once, he's betraying his parents' blood. In future timelines, like Kingdom Come or Batman Beyond, we see him in his old age, living in a pitch-black mansion, completely isolated. All his Robins and friends grew to hate him and walked away. He's left with nothing but his dog, and a body so broken from fractures and injuries that it can barely move. He saved Gotham, but he left his soul behind in that dark alleyway. Number 2, Dr. Manhattan. Taking the number 2 spot, we're looking at someone who has absolutely everything, but in reality owns nothing. Dr. John Osterman, a.k.a. Dr. Manhattan. Everyone knows him as the most overpowered entity in the entire DC universe, a being who can rearrange atoms, construct galaxies, and manipulate time itself. But this godlike power, it's his ultimate curse. John was completely vaporized in an atomic lab accident, and when he pieced himself back together, he was no longer human. Dr. Manhattan's tragedy is that he doesn't experience time linearly like we do, past, present, future. He experiences everything simultaneously, meaning right now, as he's talking to his girlfriend, he's simultaneously watching his father die, simultaneously witnessing the end of the world, and simultaneously watching his own future betrayal. What does that actually mean? It means Dr. Manhattan has absolutely zero free will. He's become an eternal prisoner, locked inside the fabric of destiny. He knows a horrific event is about to happen, but like an actor reading off a script, he's forced to just watch it play out and go through the motions. This absolute omniscience completely wiped out John's humanity. He can no longer experience the feeling of a surprise, longings, or even love. He drifted into a void of pure nihilism and absolute isolation,
growing to detest the human race because he saw them as a bunch of ants running around for nothing. Manhattan is a god who, at the absolute peak of having everything, endures the most blinding loneliness in existence. Number 1, the Spectre. And finally, the number 1 spot, the most tragic, agonizing, and crushing destiny in all of DC history, belongs to Jim Corrigan, aka the Spectre. Jim Corrigan was a hard-boiled, good-hearted police detective back in the 1930s who was brutally murdered by the mob. They literally stuffed him in a barrel full of cement and dumped him into the deep ocean. But Jim's soul found zero peace.
The absolute source of the universe, God in the DC lore, chose Jim's soul to become the literal cosmic vessel for the divine wrath and vengeance on Earth. Now, why is this the most tragic fate imaginable? As the Spectre, Jim gained limitless, reality-warping powers, but he was condemned to wander Earth forever, witnessing the absolute filthiest, darkest, and most savage sins of humanity, and punishing them in the most brutal ways possible. Jim, who was once a human being with a beating heart, is now forced to act as a soulless slaughter machine, doing nothing but shedding blood and executing vengeance for eternity. Here is the ultimate tragedy. Jim Corrigan still has his human memories. He still misses his wife. He still wants to just walk down the street like a regular guy and grab a cup of coffee. But he is no longer allowed to be human. Every single time he tries to reach out to his love or find a second of peace, the raw force of the Spectre chains him down and drags him right back into the middle of another bloody crime scene. He's become an eternal slave to rage, a being who delivers justice to every single victim out there, but remains the absolute greatest casualty of cosmic injustice, destined to never, ever see the light of peace or the rest of death. All right, guys, that wraps up our list of the top 10 most tragic and tortured characters in the DC universe. See what I mean? Beneath all that massive power and epic presence, there are some incredibly dark and bitter stories hidden away. When you actually hear these backstories, you realize that being a hero in the comic book world comes with a brutally heavy price. Now, it's your turn. Which of these 10 stories do you think was the absolute most painful and heartbreaking? Is there any other character you think I should have included that totally got skipped over? Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments right now. I read every single one of them, and we'll hang out and chat down there. Thank you guys so much for sticking around until the very end of this personal deep dive video. If you're into this style of character breakdowns and exploring the dark side of the comic world, make sure to absolutely smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming insane videos. Until the next mind-blowing video right here on Comic Station, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.